Ready to be Romanced. I'm Tori,
And I'm Kat,
and today we're discussing
part of your
part of your
world.
world. No, that was
Sorry.
me. That was literally
Like,
me. You know when you're just like, oh, I'm done my part.
I was like, okay, I, all good.
Oh my god! I'm just gonna leave it in there. Oh my
Okay,
gosh,
so
it's
hard to do that without like a giggle, no matter what.
no, literally. When I first was like, oh, what should my intro outro be? Like, this is the fun part of doing a podcast. I was like, I
Yeah,
want to do it together, and it's like I don't.
it's actually really hard.
Who gave me that right? Truly.
That's so funny.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast, Kat. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
For sure. Thanks for having me. So I'm Kat, and I'm Tori's friend from the
Mm-hmm.
podcast world. But well, I don't have a podcast, but I'm one of your listeners from RTBP.
Mm-hmm.
And we became friends in real life because we live in the same city. So that's fun. And yeah, I'm a pretty avid reader and I recently got like really into romance books. So yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
I was gonna ask you this because I don't think we've talked about this. Did you always read romance?
No, not really. I actually am like a pretty reformed like book snob. Like I used to read like only like really critically acclaimed like fiction, like contemporary fiction, like all the award winners. But you know what? Actually, I was thinking about it in preparation for this. My very first romance book was actually one of those like cheesy, like blind date with a book from the public library.
Oh
Like,
yes,
when they
yeah,
like cover it with like brown
yeah.
paper. So yeah, it was covered with brown paper and it said like, I don't know, like royals and like scandal and stuff. So I thought it was going to be like historical fiction. And then I opened it and it was The Royal We. So that was my very first romance book. Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's a good one, totally. And I
Yeah.
loved it. Like I remember feeling like fine. Like I remember feeling like, oh, this doesn't feel like work. Like it doesn't feel difficult. It feels like actually kind of joyful. And I read it so quickly. And ever since then, I've been like I still read a lot of different things, but ever since then I've been reading like a lot of kind of contemporary, like rom-com-y type romance.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think there's something that needs to be studied about people that can not no longer, but need such a break from anything really serious and critical.
Oh my God. Like well, and you know what I do for work. So like I'm a social
Mm-hmm.
worker in healthcare. So all day, every day, I'm like around basically like human suffering and death. And so I really need my reading to be like not reflecting our true society.
Yeah, yeah.
I face like a lot of injustice in my work and a lot of like really difficult topics. And so for my reading to be like, I always feel like it's a bad rap to say something's a light read, but for something to be like quick, like for it to move along quickly and for you to feel like accomplished as a reader was all of a sudden very important to me.
Yeah, and it's funny how light read has a negative connotation when it's kind of like pop music when
Totally.
but why don't you want a light read?
I
Why
know.
do we have to make ourselves
Suffer.
for yes, yes.
I know. It
Yeah,
doesn't make any
yeah.
sense. I think it's just because our
Yeah.
society like doesn't really like value joy and also because of like internalized misogyny, right? Like it's stuff usually targeted for women, so it's seen as like less valuable, but
Totally, totally. And also just we are always you have to work yourself to the bone and I really think people are like that too. Don't enjoy what you're reading. It has to
yeah, it has
cut
to
you
be
deep and change
yeah.
your life. Like
Totally. It has to be like a saga of like, yeah, just like pain and suffering. Yeah. So and part of it is TikTok too. I mean, I'm like
yeah.
majorly into book talk now. And yeah, romance has just kind of taken over. It's like almost all I read now.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I told this to friend of the pod Nick maybe last year. I said
Yeah.
reading is back. It's it's back, baby. It's
It's
on
back.
trend and that is true. It's
Yeah.
just it's cool to read now. It's cool to be with your Kindle on the ferry or
Oh
whatever.
yeah. Oh, totally. Oh, absolutely. It's very cool to read now. And even like, I don't know, like I watch a lot of reality TV and even now like people talk about the books they're reading a tiny bit, but it's still like, wow, you guys are talking about like, Colleen Hoover or whatever, so whatever it is you're reading.
Yeah, yeah, and like that especially has been so zeitgeisty in like
Absolutely.
mainstream media just even these past 3 weeks.
Oh, for sure. I know. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is there a specific subgenre or trope that you like in romance novels?
It's a really good question. Definitely, you know what? This book, I realized it in the rereading of it. It has basically every trope I like. Like I'm really big into hookup to relationship. That's my favorite
Mm-hmm.
type of like getting together. Also love when like the guy is way more into the girl. Love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also love when there's like extreme wealth involved. I've read a lot of like billionaires, like the pressure of the like family legacy, like so not relatable for me, but
Yeah.
love extreme wealth in a romance novel.
Yeah, I know. That's so funny. I know because sometimes I'm like, with the Montgomerys and the Grants, which we'll talk about, I'm like, oh, just fucking ditch the hospital. Like, who gives a shit? And then I'm like, I
No,
just don't know
yeah,
what it's like
I
to
don't know what
have
it's like.
a
Yeah.
legacy family.
Yeah, to be like literally a celebrity. Like they're like people in the book, people are like, "Oh my God, it's a Montgomery." It's like, "Oh my God."
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
very, and then we should get into it fully,
We'll
but
get
like,
into
it
it.
was
Yeah.
very Grey's Anatomy, like
Yes.
Derek Shepherd, Addison Shepherd, you're a
Yeah.
Shepherd, you're a Grey. No, it was the Grey family that was more popular, I think,
Right, right,
because
right.
the mom.
Admittedly, Grey's Anatomy is a little bit of a pop culture blind spot for me, but I do know, I think I watched like the first like let's say like 3 to 4 seasons. So I do know, yeah, she's like a legacy hire or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, spoiler warning, everybody, we're going to be discussing part of your world. I also want to share content warning. We're going to be talking about abusive relationships and domestic violence. So, if you continue, please take care.
Hmm.
So, part of your world was written by Abby Jimenez
Hmm.
and it was published April 19th, 2022. We first meet Alexis. It's definitely a rom com. There's
Hmm.
the heavy on the com.
Hmm.
We first meet Alexis. She has swerved into a ditch 2 hours away from Minneapolis due to a like raccoon or something like that. Which
Hmm.
I was like, I would swerve too. I'm not hitting
Absolutely. I'm
any
not hitting
public.
anything.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
But she gets herself in a little bit of a pickle. She calls a tow truck. They say it's going to be an hour. But luckily enough, someone stops in the headlights.
A total hottie.
A total hottie. And this is the dream, right? Is that,
Oh,
like, this, every time I get on a plane,
yeah.
every time I'm like, I don't know, sitting alone at a park or something like that, I'm like, this is when the total hottie comes by.
Yeah, totally.
But it's never it's never like this in real life.
I really feel like this is like classic meet cute. Like it's actually a little bit funny. Like I didn't laugh out, I didn't laugh, but it's pretty cute. She's like talking to him through the little like 2 inch crack in her window, and she's like trying to take her Spanx off. Like there's heavy on the comedy for this rom-com. And
Yeah.
like love a man who already has the like chains and stuff to like get you out of like he just rocks on up and he's got everything to get you out of the ditch. I'm like ideal man right there.
Totally. Yeah, because she was coming home from a funeral and she's in Spanx and she's like, if I'm gonna have to wait, I'm gonna take them off.
Yep.
Yeah, the hottie, they have a brief interaction through the rent window, but they don't really talk. But he does pull her car out of the ditch,
Yep.
and since she's so far away from Minneapolis, she's like, okay, before I like hit the road again, I should stop and go to the bathroom and get something to eat. That was like one of the things that I felt was like so unrealistic in the book because like I would just be like, I'm not gonna eat. I'll just eat when I'm home. Like there was so
Yeah.
many times I think like Gabby and Jessica or whatever were like, oh, we should stop to eat somewhere. I was like, oh my god, just fucking get home. It's 2 hours away. I was like, hold,
Yeah.
hold it. Don't go to
Hold
the
it.
bathroom.
I
Like,
know, especially because they're supposed to be like uppity city people. They're not going to stop. Like, I'm pretty sure where they hang out in this town is like the American equivalent of Legion, right? Like, we're both Canadian. So, did they
yes.
stop at the Legion for food? Like, that makes no sense. No one would do that.
No, no, it was very much that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she stops her food and she's like mulling over the menu because it's gross food. And
Yeah.
she sees that the man is at the bar. We get Daniel's POV. It's a dual POV book, and he's talking with his friends about making a bet of who can take Alexis, the clear like tourist, the outsider, home. Which I want to see what these guys look like, because to me, like Doug and Brian read really like old man.
Old yucky man. Yes, 100%. I wasn't picturing even anyone Daniel's age. Like I was picturing like older
Yes.
guys. Yeah,
Same,
I
same.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't
It's
think that's the case.
yeah, it's so offensive. It's a really offensive little part of the meet cute here, but for some reason I'm still like, I like them.
I know,
I
because
forgive them.
me too. And of course, like the MMC is like, oh no, I wouldn't play those games. It's just
Yeah,
my friends. It's like, well, you are the company you keep. Like, I don't know if that's
totally.
much better.
Yeah, totally.
But he goes and pays his tab, and they like re-meet and they introduce themselves. She learns from Liz, the bartender, that he's the mayor and his cousin.
Hmm.
And she notices that he's hot right away. And he obviously notes that she's really beautiful, but he also really is talking about how she looks rich. Like, she
Hmm.
is not from there. She's driving a Mercedes. She's in an expensive outfit.
Hmm.
And he tells her about the bet, and she says, she plays along. She goes like, I'll walk out with you and then you can win the money.
Yeah, and we'll split it. It's
And we'll
cute.
split it. It's
Yeah.
very cute.
There's a lot of times in this book where like we see Alexis through his eyes and we see her wealth that way. Like it's not her saying like I'm wearing like Versace and Louis Vuitton. It's always or Louis Vuitton. It's always Daniel noticing it. So it's kind of interesting. Same, we'll get to it later, but same when he finally sees her house. Like we only ever see her
Yeah,
house through his eyes, which I think is actually pretty clever writing. Like I think it's fairly well written.
totally. Yeah,
Hmm.
I totally agree with that. Also, I want to say that they have good banter, but this, like the bet and like I'll play along, and like the grocery store game that they play, like
Mm. Like, look at my face is like the cringe emoji right now. I'm like, there's a I loved this book. Like, don't get me wrong, it's so embarrassing because it's so embarrassing because there's so much really cringy stuff in this. Like,
it's so funny.
it's really cringy. I
Could you
know.
imagine you show up at Thrifties and there's a couple there, and one just is closing their eyes
Um,
and walking like a zombie towards like the canned
ah,
beans or whatever? Like,
no,
it's
no,
so
it's
funny.
it's so bad. It's there, but it's good.
It's good. It's good. It's
Yeah,
exactly what we want. It's the
it is.
cheese that we want in this
Yeah.
rom-com.
I think a tourist town in the off season is like next level cozy vibes. Like I don't think I've ever read a romance novel of like townies or locals or whatever in the off season. I think it's really cute. I liked it.
It really reminded me of like Gilmore Girls, which they don't really talk about tourists, but the small town where everyone's in everyone's business and everyone helps out each
Totally.
other gave
Yeah.
me the same vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
So they leave together, obviously, to win the bet, and they continue to talk in the parking lot. And she asks, like, "Oh, where can I get food?" Because she didn't get any at the bar they were at. And he says, "I can, like, there's nothing, but I
Hmm.
could make you a grilled cheese at my house." And she's like, "Oh, like, no, like, you could murder me, or, like, I don't want to have sex with you, like, all this stuff." And
Yeah.
he's like, "No, no, no, like, I really, truly just meant I can make you a grilled cheese." And the whole time I was like, "No, you like, no, you didn't." And also, like, this was wild going to a stranger's house. I guess when
Yeah.
you know,
I know.
but like wild times.
I know. It's I think my this is my favorite trope, like the hookup to relationship, because it's like literally my entire dating history. Like I've always
Yes.
done this where I'm like, we couldn't possibly fall in love, and then I'm like 3 months later, I'm
Damn.
like obsessed. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of liked it, but it is it's pretty unsafe.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I'm glad that you said that though, because I feel like on this podcast I've said so many times, like, how does the main character not know they're falling in love? And I
Yeah.
guess if you do really like, you're trying to stick to your guns of like casual
Yeah.
sex or whatever, maybe you don't notice it. I'm always like, of course you would notice it, but maybe you
Yeah.
don't.
Maybe you don't. You really trick yourself. You're tricking
Yeah.
yourself to into thinking that you can do this.
So they go back. We don't see any of this though.
I know.
It flashes forward to Alexis leaving Daniel's house and she loses her shoe to a pile of dog shit, I think. Like it
Yeah,
was
it's
like
gross. There's a lot of like farm hijinks, I think, in the middle too,
yes.
like the
Yes.
baby goat in pajamas and stuff like that. A pig. I think there's a pig. It's a lot of like city girl comes to the farm, like hilarity. Yeah.
Totally. And she just leaves her shoe there again demonstrating her wealth, but like
Yeah.
also I was like what did she drive home in?
Yeah,
Like she
exactly.
was in stilettos. Like
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when she leaves, she grabs his hoodie and she sees his driver's license and she's horrified because he's 28 and she's 37. So
hmm
not only would she never hook up with a rando, but she would never hook up with someone so young.
Yeah, yeah. I like their age difference. And I like a protagonist that's like a little bit older. Like she's basically like geriatric in terms of like romance novel protagonists.
Yes.
Like you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, 37.
Yeah.
But it's kind of realistic because like lots of people are dating like in their 30s, especially if you're like a doctor or, like super committed to your work and everything. Yeah, I really like their age difference.
Yeah, I think it's actually realistic for
It
people
is.
in medical school that, spend if especially like she was an emerge doctor, so she definitely has to do additional
hmm
years after her med degree. So it's like this makes sense that she
Yeah.
would be a little bit older. She gets back to her house. Her twin brother is there. He missed the funeral because he is doing plastic surgery work in Cambodia.
Mhm.
And he tells Alexis that he's going to stay in Cambodia because it's his calling and he's really passionate about the work that he's doing there, but also because he married Nikki, aka Lola Simone, a really famous pop star, and
hmm
she was opening a shelter there, so they feel like their work, their heart's in another place.
Yeah, a pop star. Yeah. I kind of hated that the author like references they're like Lady Gaga level famous because it really takes it always takes me out of it because I'm like, okay, Lady Gaga like before Gucci or like after the Super Bowl. Like I'm trying to place it in time in terms of her famousness, like
Yes.
it really takes me out. I don't like pop culture references in my books, but
Okay, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I actually wrote that as one of my gripes and grumbles
okay.
because she references the last great American dynasty, which it's a
Yes.
Taylor Swift song,
Yes.
and she references The Longest Ride, which is a Scott Eastwood movie.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I was even thinking when she calls it an Airbnb, I was
Good
like,
one. Yeah.
that even kind of ages it because I feel like Airbnb is kind of on its way out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was kind of shocked to see that it was published in 2022. It kind of gave me like 2018 vibes or
me
something. I don't know
too.
why, but it was just like, yeah, I don't know why. I mean, part of it is that he was wearing like a leather bracelet the whole time.
Okay, I didn't write that down, but literally, whenever she mentioned the leather bracelet, I
I
was actually
know.
getting the ick.
I know. That's icky. That's icky. I can get on board with the tattoos. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we're good. We're good. Flannel, we're good. But his leather bracelet, like, are you kidding me? Anyway, yeah, I couldn't, I had a hard time placing it in time for
And
sure.
like I do feel like I need to unpack this because I'm sure there's something problematic about it. But when a guy puts like a lot of effort into their looks, like I'm kind of like that's not for you. Like
No.
it kind of and like I know that's probably internal. I don't know
Yeah.
homophobia. Like,
Yeah.
but like for some reason I'm like even just him thinking about putting the leather bracelet on when he goes and brings her flowers at the end of the book. Like I actually was
Yes.
like I was like, why are you
Icky.
thinking about that?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, men are supposed to. I have the same internal work to do on myself, I think. Because, like, yeah, why are you even thinking about that? Why is that even on your radar? It could be
No.
that he, like, made it too. Like, maybe it's supposed to speak to his, like, handiness or whatever. But
Right, right.
yeah, the leather bracelet was too much.
Is tragic.
Tragic.
So she's stoked for her brother, but she feels a
Hmm.
lot of pressure because we learned that her family, the Montgomerys, are an institution in Minneapolis. They basically like founded the hospital. This is kind of the cliff notes, but they like founded or like just were really integral parts of the hospital
Yeah. Yeah.
that she works at. And her mother and her father are also doctors. And so they've had the family lineage,
Hmm.
and they're retired now, so she feels like all of the responsibilities of continuing their legacy will fall on her
Hmm.
if she doesn't stay, because now her twin is gonna be in Cambodia.
Yeah, he's like kind of left her to like maintain the institutional health philanthropy thing. Like it's her parents, but also like she keeps saying 125 years, which is like I guess four generations. I don't even know. I can't do math, but
Yeah,
long time, long time.
a long time. And this was again Grey's Anatomy vibes to me,
Hmm.
because I didn't really know, because like none of my family are like donors to hospitals or universities or anything like that.
Same,
I for
same.
I like my mom gave I think like $50 maybe to UBC like when she was like
Oh,
bullied like by an alumni call center.
there you go. Yeah.
But like I I forgot that there's like all the like balls and like
Oh yeah, the galas and
talks.
like schmoozing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually find, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of like I don't know, yes, schmoozy stuff to do with other rich people for her. And I actually kind of like this part of Alexis's life. Like she feels like both trapped in it, but then she also really enjoys her work. Like she likes being a doctor, which, sometimes in romance books, it's like very straightforward. It's like, I hate my life and I need to change. But this is like kind of more complicated. It's like, I like my life, but I'm trapped in this aspect of it and I don't like this part of it anymore. Like I thought it was like nicely nuanced, I guess.
Totally, because I think a lot of times you just see, okay, well, or you think maybe, well, you're a doctor. That's like the pinnacle of
Hmm.
educational success or whatever. And it's
For
like,
me, it would be.
but no, her parents actually, yeah, like that for me at least, but
Yeah.
yeah, her parents are like, no, that's not even good enough. You have to be a surgeon. You have to be the chief. Like, you can't
Yeah.
just be a lowly, like,
Yeah.
attending or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. They think it's like an embarrassment that she's an emergency room doctor, which is, yeah, it just goes to show you like how it's all about the context of certain families.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, they're very disparaging of her successes for sure.
Totally. We also learn a little bit more about her backstory with her ex. She was
Hmm.
engaged to a man named Neil for 7 years, who also works at the hospital. And he not only cheated on her, but we learn that he was abusive throughout different instances in the book. He's 47, and he has a 22-year-old child. So
Hmm.
there's also a little bit of the age gap between Alexis and him. They're living separately right now, but he wants to buy her out of the house.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I like the flip of like she's dating now she slept with Daniel who's like 10 years younger and her ex is 10 years older. I like that like play on the age gap. I thought it was cool.
Totally.
I think we also meet her friend Bree here, who's like her normie friend, her like just regular, non super wealthy friend. And I like that character. She's cool.
Me too. And I
Hmm.
think that there's a book probably about her
I
in
think the
this
next one,
series.
yeah, I think the next one's
Yeah.
her story.
Which I really want to read, because I think literally my favorite dialogue in the book is when she's in the car or truck or whatever with Daniel.
Totally. I can't agree. I know. Totally. I love that too, where she's just like, okay, what questions do you have?
Yeah.
Next, next. And she just like
Yeah.
pushes away like all of his insecurities or whatever. Yeah, she's just like to the point. I think she's like of Puerto Rican ancestry or something. Yeah,
Mm,
I think she's an awesome ER doctor too. She's like doing the hard work. Yeah.
she's
I'll read
doing
her
the
book for
work.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, me too, me too. And yeah, she tells Bree like about Daniel and stuff like that, and she's really encouraging her to, move on from her ex and call Daniel back, because she thought it was going to be a one night stand, but she like stole his hoodie and she's like still wearing the hoodie and stuff like that. And so she does want to see him again. She calls the bar. She's like, I've got your hoodie. I need to return it. And he's like, yeah, you do. You should come down tonight, even though it's like 2 hours away. You can stay at this Airbnb that's attached to my loft if you like feel weird about staying with me. And she goes. She puts on her best small town girl outfit and she hits the road.
She's like cosplaying country gal. Like she puts on like, and he calls it out too. He's just like, "What are you wearing?" It looks like it's like directly off the rack. Like, yeah,
yeah. He's like, those jeans look like you are wearing them for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. That flannel shirt is like perfectly ironed. Like it just makes no sense, which is kind of cute.
Super cute.
Mm-hmm.
He takes her to a drive-in movie theater and he sets up blankets and pillows and like twinkle lights and a picnic that Doug put together. Doug is his wingman in this book. He works the projector. He makes the picnic. He helps with the dick pic. Like
yeah, which is a truly unforgivable chapter. I can't never get over it. I'm like, okay. Doug is he's a veteran, right? And he does like artisanal like cheeses and stuff or whatever. So he makes them fancy picnic things and it's pretty cute. He's like their
like guardian, not guardian angel,
fairy,
but like
fairy godmother dating.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And when she sees everything that he's set up for her, she gets a little bit upset because she's like, I don't want to date anyone. I'm literally here to like have
sex with you. I know.
And leave. Yeah. And he's like, if you're coming all the way down here and like staying overnight, we can't just have sex for like 24 hours. We're going to do other activities.
Yeah.
And I will put an effort because you're putting in an effort to see me. And I love this. I love
it too. Yeah, I love it too. And it's like there's a lot of kind of like defining what we are and what we aren't and what we are and aren't doing. Like there's a lot of like agitation around like, are we dating? Are we just sleeping together? Whatever. And he's just like, he's such a chill person that he's kind of just like, here's what it is. And this is how I'm approaching it. And it's actually like really refreshing. I think it's sweet.
Super refreshing. Yeah. Like he doesn't mind being vulnerable. Actually, I think throughout the whole book.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
I know. And he's hot. The good guy's often not hot, which is part of why I like this. I'm like, it's hard to do like golden retriever energy and also be like awesome at sex and really hot. So good for Abby Jimenez.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, 100%. And they play another game. He doesn't know what she does for a living. She makes him guess. He guesses lawyer, then CEO, but like their conversation gets like interrupted, so he doesn't find out. I was like, I feel like Alexis, you're making a bigger deal of it than it is at this point. Like making someone guess is like because she was hiding it from him.
Yes, she was actively hiding it from him. Yeah, totally. Yeah, she doesn't want to. I mean, I guess she wants to keep things casual, but also I think it's like speaks to her privilege where she doesn't want to like make him feel uncomfortable by being like, yeah, I'm like a super educated, super successful doctor, you know, like I think she's trying to be courteous of his feelings or protect him, but I don't know. Yeah, she keeps it from him.
Totally. I know, because it's like, well, maybe he doesn't think anything, like maybe I don't know.
Maybe he's not threatened by it. Maybe he's fine.
That's what I mean. Yes, exactly. Like maybe he's just like, oh, it's amazing that you're an accomplished doctor.
Yeah.
I'm also accomplished in other ways, but
totally.
It's hard to feel like that though.
Well, for sure. And she's coming off of a relationship with like a super insecure man. So of course she's not going to be like, wow, this new man has got to be like super secure in himself. Like Daniel's super secure in himself. He's not going to be threatened by, he's going to be impressed by and like want to support a doctor, not run scared or like act like super insecure.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's why it's such a good foil and like such a breath of fresh air for Alexis, because they're so different.
Absolutely.
So they go back to the Grant house and they have sex. And in the morning when they wake up, Daniel gets a call from Popeye, an elderly man who has fallen down.
Mhm.
And they go to check on him. And Alexis goes straight into doctor mode. And we get the
Mhm.
job reveal because she's like, "Hi, I'm Dr.
Dr.
Alexis."
Alexis, I'm going to take your blood pressure now. Yeah, she just like
Yes.
morphs into doctor mode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's so true though, because my sister is a doctor, and like I'll be like, "Oh, can you like look at this or like whatever?" And then she runs down the questions and she does all the pokey like the
Hmm.
palpitating or whatever the fuck, like
Yeah,
all of that stuff.
palpitations. Yeah,
Palpitation,
or
like
no, wait, palpate. Palpitation
palpate.
is in your heart. I love how we
Yes.
can't figure it out. We're
No,
not doctors.
yeah, we're the Daniels of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Totally. But yeah, they do just really go into doctor mode. But she helps them out, and instead they like had plans that morning to go to breakfast at a restaurant, but she leaves instead. And he thinks it's because she's embarrassed to be seen with him, but she just doesn't want people to know basically that they're having sex.
She wants to keep it not dating and just sex. I think this Popeye scene is like where the element of like magic is introduced because there's kind of like some magic realism. I want to hear what you want to think of this.
Oh
Tell me
my
what you
god,
think.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes,
Okay.
I also like, okay, I actually really like magic realism.
Okay.
I took a lot of history classes about like Mexico and other like Latin American countries where magic
Hmm.
realism is so important to their culture and their storytelling and all like that, all
Hmm.
of that stuff. So I actually really like it. But
Hmm.
in this book, I find it weird because nothing else is magical
Nothing else is
except
magical.
for like these freak like
Yeah.
weather
Yeah.
occurrences.
Totally. Yeah, it's really I missed it for like 90% of the book the first time I read it. Like I was like, am I
Yes.
an idiot? But also like it's like so lightly like kind of feathered through, but I don't even know if I'm using the term magical realism correctly, but it's
I
basically
think
like
so.
yeah, basically like Popeye believes the like town is a living being that like it gets what it needs and he thinks it like needs Alexis and he thinks Daniel needs it. So basically like he thinks everything is fated. And I kind of liked it because I'm like, well, you know me, Tori, but like I'm kind of witchy and I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
I believe like everything has a spirit and like I like to think that things are pretty fated when it comes to love. So that's embarrassing, but like
No, I
I
like
kind of like
that.
this part. Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
the town was like working in their favor and trying to get them to like be together. I think it's kind of cute.
I think because I'm definitely going to finish the trilogy.
Me too.
Spoiler alert, it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
I think if it has like a through line in the series, I think it will like resonate with me more. I think it just seemed random because you're right. It was so feathered in that it almost wasn't there. So I kind of
Yeah.
wish they either like doubled down on it or maybe again when I see the whole picture, it'll make
Yeah.
sense. But for some reason, I feel like it's not going to be in those other books. And then it
That's a
just
good
kind of
point.
seems random to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree totally. Yeah. I never thought of that. Hopefully she does either like commit to it and like flesh it out a bit more in the next books. But also part of it is that the characters don't notice it. Like only Popeye says it this one
Yes.
time and then it keeps
Yes.
happening like around Alexis, but she doesn't notice. And you're like, hello. And, like, I don't know. It's just kind of like because they're not noticing, neither are we as the reader, I guess, or something.
Totally. Yeah, I think there's one other conversation Popeye has with Daniel at Alexis's like thank you party, and I think that's it. And so
Mhm.
I wish it was a little bit more.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. So Alexis heads home. She goes for a run with her friend slash neighbor Jessica, who's also a doctor, and she tells her about Daniel, but like not that just that she's hooking up with someone,
Mhm.
nothing about him as a person. And she explains more about why she broke up with Neil. And she says it's actually not even the cheating. She thought that was like kind of actually a good excuse to break up with him. But
Mhm.
it was because he belittled her. He told her she smelled bad and used like other tactics, kind of like the like mean, but then like really mean consistently, but then also could be really nice to like make
Hmm.
up for it. And
Hmm.
yeah, he tells her that she smelled so bad every time she would go to like a social engagement or wake up. So she ended up by the end of the relationship taking 3 to 4 showers a day because she was
Hmm.
so self-conscious.
Yeah, we learn about like, yeah, Neil's like emotional abuse and belittling and like just kind of like chipping away at Alexis's like self-worth. I think it's actually like a really accurate like description of what emotional
Yes.
abuse is like and how it can go on for so long, and it kind of goes it gets dismissed by the people in your life because everyone around you is like, but they're such a nice guy. It's like people can't believe that they are a different way behind closed doors and all that. Yeah, I think this actually, I mean, we don't have to talk about it a ton, but I actually think like both abuse storylines that happen in this book are done with like quite a bit of care. Like I think they're
100%.
yeah, they're and it's funny because I just before this book finished, It Ends With Us.
Right, because you're reading that for
Oh my
sociological,
God.
anthropological reasons.
I tried it. I skipped like most of it, but that's an example of one I feel like the issues were not handled with care. And here
Mm-hmm.
this is just care. Like it's just it's accurate to like the lived experience, and it's just has like all the reasons why our societies dismiss it or something. I thought it was really well done.
You're right. It highlighted because I think when people think of like domestic violence or abusive relationships, they think of the physical stuff as like the only
Yeah.
way that people can hurt
Yeah.
other people. And I think this was a really good way. Like she talks about all of the subtle things that he did,
Yeah.
as well as what she saw from her parents and
Yes,
how that got
exactly.
mirrored in her relationship.
Yeah. Every person she tells this to immediately says like, "Well, did he hit you?"
Yeah,
Which is like too real, right? Is like people always think, "Oh, like physical abuse is like all there is," or like the like as if there's some hierarchy of abuse. But anyway, um,
yes,
she is recovering and starting to really like realize the extent of what Neil did to her, I think, at this part.
totally.
Mhm.
And just because we talked about It Ends With Us, I listened to this via audiobook and there was a warning at the beginning
Mm,
and at the end there was resources and hotlines. So
yes. Yeah.
just putting that out there, people might have not had the same experience with It Ends
That's
With Us.
that's part of how you talk about these issues. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the deal. It's that you talk about these issues and you give people support.
Totally. Okay, so they get back from their run, and Neil is there moving back in, unfortunately,
He's the
because
worst. I hate him. He's
he's
the
the
worst.
worst.
Yeah.
He says he has a legal right to the house. He wants to again buy her out, so he'll have a better chance of doing that if he shows the courts or whatever that he's living there.
Mhm.
Did you ever think like I guess it's a principle thing, but did you ever think for Alexis like just to get an apartment or something for the meantime?
Oh my God, that's such a good point. I didn't think of that, but it feels like reasonable. But I guess, yeah, because it's not like she wanted the house. I feel like this is like a Ariana Sandoval situation. It's like, why are you guys still
Yes.
there? Like, what's happening? Because she obviously has the means to get her somewhere else to live.
Yeah, they both did. And she's like, I wanna buy you out of the house. Like it's my house. But I was like, why would you want to stay there? But you're right, it is
No.
an Ariana Sandoval thing. I guess
Yeah,
it's just like, well, this person has taken so much from me, they can't also take this.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
8 days passed and Daniel's really upset because Alexis has kind of ghosted him.
Hmm.
But he's in a little bit of a pickle too. His mom, who she was a teen mom and she has some addiction issues, calls Daniel to let him know that she's putting the Grant house up for sale.
Hmm.
And he's like, no, like it's been in our family for generations. It means so much to me. And she says, well, if you can pay the down payment and then like buy the house off of me, you can keep it. So he
Yeah.
needs to raise 50K in 6 months.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, it's sad. It's scary, and they live in such a small town. So he reopens it as an Airbnb, even though it's the off season, and he starts up his carpentry. Alexis ends up finally texting Daniel back, and
Yeah.
they talk on the phone, and they like throughout the whole novel talk on the phone for like hours at a time.
Hours, so much. I know. It's
Yeah.
like I feel like what this author like what she lacks in like smut, she makes up for in flirting. Like I feel like their flirting and their banter is actually like really sweet and good. Like I would like smile during it because I'm just like, oh, that's cute, or that's like what it feels like to like actually flirt with somebody.
Yeah, and I felt like it wasn't like these like little glimpses into their lives. Like it didn't seem that unrealistic. Sometimes
No,
the banter, I'm like, you would never say that to anybody.
fair
Like
enough, fair
I'm
enough.
like, that's insane. Like you wouldn't say that, but like theirs
Yeah.
was like normal.
Yeah, yeah, I felt like it was. I think it's around this part too where she like realizes he doesn't have social media, so she can't like creep on him. But she goes and reads the Airbnb reviews, and they're all just like little stories of like how sweet he was, how generous he was, how kind he was. And I was just like, oh, that Daniel. I was just like, that's such a nice way to learn that someone's a rad person is to read their Airbnb reviews. I like that little part. But she
Me
still found a
too.
way to like internet stalk him a little bit.
No, I know. You sometimes that's all you got, so you have to work with
Yeah.
Airbnb
Oh, I know.
reviews.
Totally.
So she goes on a girls' trip with Gabby and Jessica because it's Neil's birthday and she wants to avoid him. And she's kind of friends with them, but not like real friends like she is with Bree.
Hmm.
They did all the booking, so she doesn't really know exactly where they're going. And they changed plans last minute, and it turns out they're heading to Walken. Alexis freaks out before she arrives at Grant House, and she texts Daniel and she says, "Pretend not to know me, I'll explain later." He does pretend not to know her, but he's like hurt and he's confused. And the person that can't pretend is Hunter the dog.
Yeah,
Like
Hunter's stoked to see her. There's so much relatable dog owner content in this book. It's like he's constantly just like, please don't embarrass me to his dog. And I'm like, oh God, I get it.
giving
Yeah.
the pep talks.
Yeah. Of just like behave yourself. Don't be awful.
Pest.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think I kind of liked this little scene where she realizes that they're like, because she doesn't realize that the Airbnb is even open because she doesn't know about the call from his mother. So it all kind of works out like from a plot standpoint. I thought it was it was well done.
Yeah,
Hmm.
100%. I agree. And the gals get settled into the room, and Alexis goes to find Daniel, and she like explains that she just got out of a breakup and their husbands are currently with her ex, and it would just be really bad if they found out. And he is like appeased by this answer. He doesn't ask too many questions because he is starting to get, or maybe not starting to get, but the reason is that all of the ex stuff, so she's not giving him too much information.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, she's keeping him in the dark about Neil and everything. Yeah.
Yes. And they have a happy hour at the Airbnb, and they talk about how hot Daniel is and that they would want to have sex with him, but he's not the type of guy that you would bring home to your parents. And she's like, yikes. Yes.
Yikes.
Like,
I'm fully in love with him. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. Like, she's like,
Yeah.
oh, fuck. So she fakes a headache and stays behind because she realizes also, she's like, I don't want to actually hang out with these people. Like, I'd
Yeah.
actually much prefer to hang out with Daniel.
Yeah. Yeah. Alexis is really realizing that these friends, quote unquote, are like just not safe people for her to like be herself around or like share with. Like they're just like, regardless of who their husbands are, they're like pretty judgmental and cruel. She's just starting to really see them with kind of fresh eyes, I think.
Totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
I know this whole Daniel thing is really shaking up all of her
Mhm.
priorities and like making her look at, like, take stock of her life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So they spend the night together. She says, I never got why people were so into sex or like having sex. And her mind is just absolutely blown because Daniel makes her feel safe and desired. She says she is ready to try things she's never tried before. And
Mhm.
just it's night and day from Neil.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. It's like, and also he's like paying attention to her, which is like both in sex and in life. Like it's kind of like she's just like getting for the first time in her life like some decent treatment from a man.
Yeah,
At
which
37,
is, I
which is sad.
know,
Yeah,
which
it's sad.
is really sad.
It's
Yeah, because
bleak.
at one point she says in the book, she's like, how do you do that? Or something like that. Or like, how do you
Hmm.
know what I want? Or something like that. And he's like, I pay attention. And
I know.
it's so sad that I was like crying at that. And I'm like, that's literally
I know.
basic human decency. And I was
I know.
crying.
This is a lot of why this book truly destroyed me. I mean, it's so cheesy. I can't even believe how much I liked it, but like it's because of how that character of Daniel is written. He is like so earnest and like so he's just like one of those guys who's like, "Oh, there's guys out there who treat girls bad." Like he's like oblivious.
Yeah.
He's oblivious to that like there's cruelty out there. It's just it's bizarre. But I
Yeah.
like him. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Hmm.
Yeah, because he says, like, can you tell me about Neil or like your
Hmm.
ex or whatever? And she says, she basically just says Neil was mean, and he says, I'll never be mean to you. And again, I'm
Yeah.
bawling, and it's like, again,
Cute.
that
Yeah.
should be the standard. Like,
Cue me crying and like putting the book down just to be like, oh my God.
I
Like
know.
it's so sweet. Yeah.
They find out they're into the same books,
Yeah.
and she finds out that the Grant family, like, there's always been a Grant who is mayor. He's the last one in their family, so he can't leave. So they kind of are connecting over
Hmm.
their shared experience with that.
Yeah. They have like parallel family legacies, but they're basically they're supposed to be about caring for like vulnerable people, but hers includes a ton of money, so it's kind of like lost its way. Yeah, it's kind of these cool. He uses the exact number of 125 years as well. Did you catch that? Like they're both.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an invisible string moment where it's like, okay, both of their families have been like living in this way, like really committed to their legacy, but it's just so different.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
different. And she's like, "Okay, also, why am I here? Why is the Airbnb open?" And she's like, and he's like, "I need $50,000. My mom is trying to sell the place." And is this the time where she goes, "I'll give you 50K?" I don't think so. I think it's maybe later on.
I think it's a bit later on. Like I think she visited. I think it's when she's like fully in love with them, and she's just like, I want to help you out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she learns about his mom and how like strained that relationship is and everything. Hmm.
And the next day, all the gals are eating breakfast that's made by Daniel, and it's like also like really good food,
So good.
which is nice. And Hunter brings a squirrel that's playing dead into the room. And obviously this when he drops it, it runs around the room causing utter chaos.
Classic
Classic.
chaos scene. Yeah,
The
just
girls
chaos.
are running around trying to get out. All the dishes are smashed and stuff like that, and they run outside. They burst out laughing, and they have like a moment. I was like, oh, this is where it's going to turn around, like they're going to actually enjoy it, because they've been kind of giving like snide comments
Hmm.
about the situation. So I was like, oh, it's turning around. And then Jessica, when Daniel goes to clean up, Jessica goes, "Oh, I'm gonna rate this place a 1 star." And Alexis is like, "Actually, you can't do that."
Yeah, no, you're not. Yeah, they're awful. They're really bad. They're bad people.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
never consider rating like an Airbnb or a hotel or a service or whatever for like an honest mistake.
Oh, absolutely. And like a kind man who it's pretty outrageous actually that they would even it speaks to like how out of touch they are with like their own privilege, you know. It's like they don't even think about it.
Totally.
Hmm.
And this is where Alexis goes to help clean him up. The tree drops 1,000 acorns on them, and they get upset. They leave, and Alexis stays back to help clean.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really know how to clean or cook or do some of these skills that you don't learn if you're in school for 12 years or whatever.
Absolutely. And you have like multiple staff like keeping your house running. Yeah, totally. She doesn't know how
Yeah.
to do the most basic like kind of house maintenance things. It's kind of
And
funny.
Neil always got on her for that. He's like, you don't even need the house. You don't even know how to run it.
Hmm.
But Daniel's like really patient, even like helping her.
So patient. Yeah.
Or as they're going to leave, she learns that Daniel comped the stay for them. Alexis is like, oh my God, no, he's like trying to raise this money. So she
Yeah.
goes and shows them his carpentry and like just makes up a price. Like,
Hmm.
it's like, buy them for 7,000 because they're like, okay, that's nothing to them.
Yeah, totally. I like that. There was like Alexis's kind of quick thinking and also just like exploiting her asshole friends. Like her friends were being so terrible. So it's just like, yeah, make them pay. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like selling like pieces of furniture for like $200. I was like, you
Oh,
can barely get something from IKEA for
yeah.
$200.
It was
Like,
comical. Yeah.
yeah.
Not $200. I mean, he's so out of touch with like, I don't want to say the real world, but he's so sheltered, right? He doesn't understand that like something as beautiful as like a custom headboard should be like, yeah, he's really undervaluing himself.
Yeah, they head back to Minneapolis. There's a moment where Alexis calls Daniel because her power's out and she's in an emergency,
Hmm.
which we later learn that Neil turned the power off to like test her, but then he also makes her favorite quiche. So it's like this Jekyll and Hyde kind of
Yeah.
situation from him.
It's like a control, it's a power move. It's like a, yeah, he wants to kind of immobilize her. So yeah, because she can't even open the door with the power off, right?
Yeah, which I was like, that's like really fucking scary. When she was
That is
complaining
scary.
about the coffee, I was like, okay, girl, like just get
Yeah,
one at the hospital. But like when
she
she
couldn't
was
get
like,
out.
oh no, like my car, I can't like get out of the garage. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's like, yeah, really freaky. And she's like, I just gotta, you know, put up with this for another 3 to 6 months while we go through the litigation process.
Hmm.
And she's just getting no support from her parents. They are continuing to hang out with Neil
Yeah.
and try to convince her to basically take him back. And she's
Yeah.
saying no.
Such a betrayal. Like basically they're choosing to believe him or like basically they're hoping that she'll get back together with him because of his reputation. Like it's all about the image, the reputation. Like there's a lot of talk about what like an appropriate husband would be, you know. It's like, ugh, gross.
Yeah, not seeing anything outside of just the I guess yeah, legacy and like the prestige of
The prestige,
having
that's the word,
the
totally.
chief of surgery or whatever
Yeah.
as your husband.
Yeah.
And she gets upset, so she heads to walk in because it calms her down, it recenters
Hmm.
her, and she feels relaxed there.
Yeah. I think she even says like being with Daniel feels like a break from my own brain, which like, oh my God, as like a anxiety, depression, ADD girl, it's like I would love a break from my brain. That's like all we ever want. So it's really sweet.
So true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And when they see each other, they kind of have the conversation about, are you seeing other
Yeah.
people? And Daniel's like, I straight up want to be your boyfriend. And she's like, no, because, I didn't want to get into another relationship after I just got out of one, but we can
Hmm.
be exclusive.
It's like the Love Island, like they closed things up. It's
Exactly. Because I was like, what? Remind me again, like, I guess what the difference between like exclusivity and boyfriend girlfriend is. Like,
yeah,
it's a fine line.
I know, and it gets a little bit whiplashy in this part of the book because you're like, okay, like she keeps saying like I don't want to, but then she does it. It's a little bit all over the place, but yeah, essentially they like start to they say like we're not going to see other people.
And they play the grocery store game.
Yeah, they do. And also they do. I was they do my least favorite romance novel trope, which is like stop using condoms. Like I
Oh
hate
my God.
sorry. I hate hearing this.
Yes.
I'm like, what is wrong with people where it's like, why do we even need to hear that? It's really weird. It's like their like little mini commitment ceremony is like basically having sex without a condom in romance books. And I'm
Yes.
just like
I clocked
over
that
it.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I know. It's such a weird like a weird
It is.
thing to like include in the book.
Yeah. And it happens a lot. I feel like I've read that a number of times.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they head to the grocery store and they play their
Worst game
game.
ever.
Yeah, but I know what? I feel like this is going to be really cute in the movie adaptation.
You are 100% right. Yes, you're right. This is going to be the moment. Yeah,
Because,
for
like,
sure.
my realist brain was like, this is like, I'm the one like reading a magazine in the aisle, being like, "Who are these two
Get out of
losers?"
here.
Like it's kind of a little bit like manic pixie dream guy.
Yes, you're right. Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Um. But yeah, but I think it'll play well on screen.
Yeah.
They pick their grocery items, they head back to Daniel's house, and then Daniel gets a call, and a woman, Hannah, is having a baby,
Hmm.
and they can't get to the hospital.
Hmm.
So they go, and Dr. Alexis delivers the baby,
Hmm.
and once she's done, she sees everybody in the town clean up the mess. They were helping during the birth. They
Hmm.
are bringing her food and just really supporting this person. And she's like, "Wow, this is like community. This feels like a new sense of purpose
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
my job." And yeah, she's stoked on it. Stoked enough to make an emergency kit for the next time she's in
Yes.
walk-in.
Yeah, this is where like you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, this is where like the I don't know, like health equity part of it all starts to hit her where she's just like, holy crap, like if I wasn't here, this baby, because the cord was wrapped around her neck, it could have been a massive, you know, it could have been bad for both mom and baby. And so she just kind of starts to realize like these people need just like basic healthcare. Like, so she starts to try and support them in that way.
Yeah, totally. And we saw that with Doug too, with because
Yeah.
he had depression and he just
Mhm.
couldn't regularly get medication, or there was a lot of things that it was like, well, he can't see a doctor regularly, so then he couldn't do that. Like it all
Yeah.
kind of builds on one another.
He had to like ration his medication and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it meant he couldn't be well. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so Alexis is back at the hospital, and Bree and Alexis are talking about Daniel, and she's like, "No, you are definitely attached." She even says, and not this wasn't like she's her best friend, so it wasn't in like a malicious way or anything, but she was basically just like, "You should cut ties right now because no one will accept him like in your life." So
Hmm.
even she's saying that, and she's the best friend.
Yeah, she's being a little bit, I think she's being a little bit harsh here and but she's also just trying to be like the voice of reason, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was to protect her also, because she was
Yeah.
like, "You're getting attached. If you continue this, it's only going to make it worse when you break it off."
Yeah, exactly.
And Daniel and Alexis have phone sex, and this is where we get the dick pic with the ring light.
I know his like friend helps him. This was a bridge too far for me. I'm not squeamish. But I just was like, no, Daniel, you're like
Oh my
I'm
God.
attracted to you. Please don't be so yucky. It gave me the ick, you know? It was like it was bad.
Yeah, like the no what's like what's more unrealistic than the magic realism fucking tree is a woman asking for a dick pic.
100%. Yeah. 100%. It's crazy.
It was wild. Even
Yeah.
if I send a nudie pic, I do not want one back.
Yeah. No. And then his like friend who has like Tinder experience or whatever, like this friend's been dating, so he's like, I know how to do this. It was like, oh God.
I know.
This also made me feel like this was written like kind of 2016, 17, 18. Like it made me the dick pic stuff was too much.
I will say though, all the tips, like they were correct.
Yeah, you're right.
Like all
Yeah.
of them were good tips. But
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, totally.
I'm curious if that's a hot take though, because obviously no one wants an unsolicited dick pic. But if
Yeah.
you ask for one, I wonder
Yeah.
if the listeners, if we have some folks that
True.
want to weigh in,
Yeah, yeah.
let us
And
know.
Daniel, our consent king, like does I say it multiple times, do you want this? I need to hear the words. Like he was like, this is, I'm not just doing this for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Actually, Brie let me down in this too because I think she says it later, but she says to Alexis, she's like, dick pics are community property. I was like, excuse you? I was
Oh, I
like,
didn't catch that.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
Alexis,
no, no,
I wrote it
no.
down. I was like, Brie, that's not, no, no, no. We don't say that kind of thing.
No, 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 no.
Yeah,
Do not share
yeah,
out. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
She says,
wild.
she pressures Alexis to show her and then says, dick pics are community property.
Oh, I didn't catch
Isn't that
that. That's a
wild?
good catch. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not true.
No, no, we don't agree.
Alexis goes out for dinner with her parents. They're still pressuring her to get back with Neil. And she's like, okay, I'm just going to tell you guys straight up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get back together with him because he was abusive.
Hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, it wasn't physical. So
Yeah.
you can just work on it.
Yeah, this is brutal. This really, yeah. And I think she starts to see her mom as a victim of her dad's emotional abuse too. Like it starts to all become clear to Alexis that like part of why she accepted that kind of, or not accepted, but part of why she didn't catch this earlier with Neil is that that's the
Yes.
way her father treats her mother. So there's this intergenerational piece that's just like all too real. And her parents are so shitty. Like they're just so unsupportive and so unkind and yeah.
It's so bad. They're
Yeah.
like, don't do this to her. Like, the mom's like, don't do this to your father. He's old. It's like,
Yeah.
he basically was like forced to retire. He like golfs. He like seems like he could practice like
Yeah.
family medicine or something like that. He just couldn't do the surgeon stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
give me a fucking break.
Oh, my least favorite reason for anything is like, oh, they're old, they're set in their ways. Like, oh my God, I roll to the extreme here. I yeah, hate it.
100%. And Bree spots this, exactly what we're
Hmm.
saying. At one point, she asks if Alexis, yeah, didn't see the signs with Neil because of her mother and father. This was weird. I didn't like this part, but she says to Neil, if you go to therapy solo for 16 weeks, and then I'll go to counseling with
With
you.
you? Yeah.
And I was just like, why I guess she was like, she really was, I guess, like so on the fence. But I felt like at some point she was like not sticking to her guns.
Yeah, that was a weird part of the story. I mean, she did insist that he go to her therapist and that the therapist was going to disclose everything Alexis had shared. So basically she was trying to like get Neil to accept or see his own behavior as like very problematic. But
Yeah.
also that's not how therapy works at all. Like you can't just like be like, go to my therapist so she can tell you that you're abusive. Like it's not a super realistic part of it.
Yeah. A little time passes. Alexis goes and sees Daniel. He gives her a rock that he found that looks like a heart.
Took him 2 hours to find it.
Yeah, again, I was like sobbing because I know it's just a rock, but like I would have cherished that like it was my firstborn
Yeah,
child.
totally. Me too. And Alexis does too. Like she's got like all the money in the world, all the means, and she's just like so moved by this guy's like commitment to her and just like wanting her to be happy. It's really sweet
It's very sweet. And he tricks her into attending her like thank you party
for the baby.
for the baby. And she loves it. She loves the people. She loves the place. And this is when she offers him the
Mhm.
$50,000. And he doesn't say an outright no. He's like, if I can't scramble, like we'll talk about this, but basically, no, thank you.
Yeah. There's a huge like like contrast of like this big community dinner to say thanks for her, showing how much they appreciate her, like showing like and then that horrible family dinner she just left with her parents where she's like can't be herself and like they're just disparaging that she's like just a lowly ER doctor. It's like it's kind of incredible because it's like I actually cried in this spaghetti dinner part because I'm just like I die for community, like any community. I'm just like that's so sweet and to have like your like contributions like appreciated and seen is just feels so good for our Alexis here, I think.
Totally. I know this was like a real wake up call for her. Yeah, and how disappointing I think when you if you come to this realization, but like that your parents aren't giving you that unconditional love that
Oh,
parents
totally.
should give.
It's very conditional, and the dad keeps moving the goalpost of like success. It's like
Right,
which is like
right.
such an abuse tactic of like, oh no, I'll approve you and love you at this point, then this point, then this point. And it just keeps moving, and it's yeah, she's realizing all this. It's quite sad.
And it's kind of juxtaposed with Liz and Jake because when she
Mm.
after the party they're at the grand house and the police car arrives and Jake pushes Liz out of the car. He's mad at her for like some reason.
Mm.
It's really scary. It's escalating because
Mhm.
they all knew that this was happening, but it seems like it's escalating. She's refusing help at this point. She's really embarrassed.
Mhm.
And Alexis drives her home, and they talk a little bit about it, about how he's really jealous and is really controlling of her life, but because he's like the friendly chief of police or
Yeah,
whatever.
he's the police. He's
Yeah.
like the police of the town or whatever. So he feels
Yeah.
like above the law, and yeah, it's very sad.
But she agrees to make a record of what he's doing, and just in case she ever decides to do anything with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
We get a little moment from Alexis where she tells Daniel, like, I don't see a future with you. But he's like, I still want to see you. Like, we don't have to like put a direction on this per se.
Mhm.
And then we get like a big time jump. But
Huge.
yeah, the fill in the blanks of this is just that they're really enjoying their time together.
Yeah, they're in love.
They're in love. Alexis is like integrated into the community, helping
Mhm.
out with the tourist season, teaching Doug medical things.
Mhm.
She's grown. She's when she goes back to her house, Neil sees her fixing the garbage disposal and baking a quiche and he's
Mhm.
like shocked by her progress.
Yeah. Yeah, she's grown. Like that's a good way of putting it. Is like she's doing more like functional things around the house. She's less like helpless, and also she's got like way more perspective on her own privilege and what really matters in the world, which is like being kind to each other.
Totally. She goes back to Daniel and they're bathing Hunter who got skunked
Hmm.
and Daniel realizes he's in love with her
Hmm.
and he does feel like time is running out because I know that they didn't want to put a label on it or a direction, but they do realize if Alexis gets the chief of the emergency department job, she'll be working a lot and won't be able to see him. And I think he kind of feels like that would be the end if
Yeah.
she was successful.
Yeah, that's kind of the like end point of their relationship is like, okay, once you get that new job, we're kind of gonna have to be done or whatever.
And I think they're having sex when he's like, "I love you," and
Yes,
she's
they
like,
are.
why did you say that?"
He freaks out.
I wrote two quotes down because I was sobbing.
Were you? Aw.
I was crying. Maybe not sobbing, but I was definitely crying.
Yeah, I was, yeah, for sure. It's very moving, this book.
It was very very sweet. But I wrote two quotes from Daniel. He says, "I love you. We are together. This isn't over. And even if you leave, it won't be over because you'll take the love with you, and it'll bring you back." Which I thought was very cute. And then like a
So
few
cute.
sentences later, he says, "Love follows you. It goes where you go. It doesn't know about social divides or distance or common sense. It doesn't even stop when the person you love dies. It does what it wants."
So sweet. Yeah. Yeah, the breakup stuff.
Yeah, and then
It's
they immediately break up.
like this is why I love romance, okay? Is like always happens. They always break up. Like
Yes, yes.
what's it called? Like the three-quarters of the way through. It's got
The
a title. The
third
third act
act
breakup.
breakup.
It always happens, but it's the like way it happens, and then you like care for these characters so much, and then yeah, it just still can devastate you. It's sad.
It was really devastating because
Hmm.
she's freaking out about this big proclamation and he's like, I'll move for you. I'll drop like this
I'll,
is it for me. I'll do anything really." And she's like, I love you." She does say it back,
yes,
but
she does.
she breaks up with him anyways.
Yeah, because she doesn't want to see him like sacrifice. Like she knows that his family legacy and the Grant house and the town means so much to him. So she's like, I won't let you like leave this, basically.
Which
Yeah.
I think that's fair. That would be really he
Yeah.
would build up resentment and like
Yeah.
Yeah, he had never been on, this was another thing. He had never been on a plane. He'd never been farther than Rochester. I guess that was the nearest
Hmm.
bigger town. He had never really been to the big city and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So it's like that would have just like
Hmm.
that's too much.
Hmm.
And then they go outside when she's going to leave and the lightning strikes.
Yeah. The gods are pissed and they're like, no, you stay here. Yeah. Lightning strike keeps her in
Yeah.
town. Hmm.
Which I'm also very excited to see how they do this in the movie.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The magic parts. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. All
I
of it.
like that. So then that really shakes her to her core. So she goes back and they talk all night and they decide that they're actually going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. So
There's so much back and forth.
no,
It's
literally,
it,
literally.
there's a lot of back and forth in this. It was a bit confusing, but
I know because because the next day they like literally break up for real this time.
yeah,
She gets the chief position.
she does.
Daniel shows up at the hospital.
This scene,
It's
it got
so
me.
bad.
It's so bad.
Everyone's confused. I think she thinks like she's like, okay, this will be fine because I'm gonna admit that this is my boyfriend.
Yeah.
But then when everyone is shocked that that's her boyfriend, he's like, you didn't tell anyone about me or the town or anything we've been doing.
Yeah.
So he like
He's hurt.
storms out of the hospital.
Yeah. And the dad, the worst character, like Daniel goes to shake his hand and he like bursts out laughing. It killed me. And and then the dad says, "Oh, Neil's living with her." Like that's what upset him too. He's like, "You're living with this guy?"
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
And obviously she doesn't know the circumstances. But
Hmm.
okay, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but like I still kind of think it's shady that like even though they were broken up and there was nothing nefarious going
Hmm.
on, it is I feel like it is kind of weird that she gave him so little that she didn't even say like I broke up with my ex, but like unfortunately like we still live together because of
Yeah.
the house situation.
Yeah, Alexis is being kind of shitty here. Like I think she should have given him more of a heads up about that in particular, right? Because like even Bree says it later. It's like I'm living with him like I'm living with cockroaches. Like he's just here because we can't kind of get rid of him. Like that would have done it. Daniel would have understood. Yeah, so she's being kind of shitty.
Yeah, it's the she just didn't she omitted the
Yeah.
that fact.
Yeah.
So yeah, he runs back to his truck. Bree finds him and
Hmm.
she explains everything and she knows about him and she's the true friend.
She's the real
And
friend.
yeah, she just bang 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 all of his concerns.
Hmm.
It kind of gives her a little bit of a second chance. Like he does end up going to her house and
Hmm.
he sees how cold the space is, except for her
Hmm.
room, which has all of their mementos.
Yeah, that's sweet.
But it's also kind of a farewell.
Yeah, yeah. We see her house like through his eyes for the first time, and it's this like cold mansion with like a lot of staff around too, right? Like, and he thinks, oh, that would be me in this scenario. Like, he starts to realize exactly like how different their worlds are. The title, yeah, he
Yes,
starts to
yeah.
he starts to really realize.
You're right, because there is a point where she calls him and she's at their like Neil and her's pool.
Hmm.
And I think he's like, "Oh, you have a pool?" But I
Yeah,
think it doesn't again, it doesn't click
it
really
doesn't
until
click.
you see it on screen. Or
Yeah.
not on screen, in real life.
In real life, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't get because he didn't even know to like he didn't even know that that was possible. Of this like insane. They even say too like his truck looks so out of place in the driveway or something like that the neighbors would be like suspicious of a truck like that. Like that's what we're working with here.
Totally. So a month passes. They're both obviously devastated.
Devo, devastated.
Devo. But Daniel does sell all his furniture and he buys his house back. There's one night. This is always like I am guilty of this,
Okay.
but like truly never do this, you guys. But like when you're broken up with someone and you call them, you're just like, I'll just call them like
Oh,
one last
oh
time
God.
just
Oh
to
yeah.
like
You just want some comfort. You're just
you
looking for
want
a bit of,
comfort.
yeah. You're like yeah, what's the like line from breakups? It's like you're the person who I need when I'm upset, but I can't talk to you. Yeah, basically, she reaches out to him, and it's devastating. They are
It's
just both bawling
yeah,
and saying they love each other so much.
it's so sad.
Yeah.
And he actually blocks her number because
Yes,
it was so hard for him.
totally. Which is also kind of like a trope in itself because it's kind of the start of like a grand gesture for like a lot of rom-coms, right? Is like blocking the number means when she reaches out to be like, let's get back together, he of course can't get that message.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's nowhere to be found. That's a really good
Yeah.
point. Yeah, so it's the night of the gala. Alexis and Brie are getting ready. We get this like mini redemption arc from Neil.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
didn't need this, like,
No.
but he like offers her the house and he's like, I'm sorry, I like really fucked up.
He
I
realizes what
realize
he's
that
done.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Yeah.
has a, yeah. I mean, I guess I do like a world where like people can change and people can learn and people can
Totally.
reflect. But also, I'm just like, I don't mind in my romance books when like the villain is legit the villain and doesn't,
Yeah.
it's kind of
And maybe if we got like a 5-year epilogue or something like that,
right.
like we hear from Neil, but like at this point, I don't need to hear from
No,
him.
he can just take off. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they're Brie and her are getting ready, and she's really encouraging her. Like, she's like, "What? Like, truly, like in your life, what are your priorities?" And she
Mhm.
lists them, and the hospital and the parents aren't number one. So she's like,
No.
you gotta reorganize your priorities. Like, if Daniel is like truly what you want, go for it. So she enters negotiations for the chief position. They've offered it to her, but like she can call the shots here.
Hmm.
She has the power. So she enters into those negotiations. She tries to contact Daniel, but she can't get a hold of him. When it's the big, you know, 125th anniversary
Hmm.
party,
The gala or whatever, like the big fancy thing.
the
Yeah.
big fancy party that she's been preparing for,
Hmm.
like all of these things come to a head. She is like, okay, I'm taking back my life. She like tells off her mom and dad.
Yeah.
She switches her speech. She changes it. And we learn what those negotiations were. It's that she wants to expand the hospital and provide remote clinics in small
Mhm.
towns, including one in Wakan.
Yeah.
That's actually what people wanted. Like,
Oh, totally. It's like a, yeah, it exactly. It's like people can get behind it because it feels so obvious. It's like, it's just like basic primary care for people in, to prevent like health complications. Like it just feels like obvious when she like puts it out there for people.
I know, I know. Actually, like all of these solutions feel so like not in a
Yeah.
bad way, but they
Yeah.
it did seem like an impossible situation, and
Yeah.
she finds really smart solutions for it.
Yeah. I think that's a good indicator of good writing too, when you're just like you feel the trapped desperation of like we can't get out of this situation, and then you
Yes.
feel the like relief of like, oh no, there was totally a way out of that. And also now her and Daniel get to be like they get to join their family legacies and be this like power couple of like supporting people. Like it's actually like it feels obvious at the time, but I think part of the writing.
No, because
Mhm.
I did feel you're totally right. I was like, I actually don't, because like again, that's the best part of romance novels is there's gonna be a happily ever after,
Right.
and like the third act breakup, you're like, now we get to the reconciliation. But
Yeah,
I truly was like, how are they gonna do this? And it was a satisfying solution. I felt.
absolutely. Yeah, totally.
So yeah, she's gonna oversee the Wakan like setup, and she's done her big speech. Even her parents are happy for her at this point.
Yeah.
She wins the night, and she's like, I have everything now except for the guy.
Yeah.
But Daniel floats
In a
in his
tuxedo.
tux,
I know.
leather bracelet. Not seen.
No, totally.
Yeah, it's kind of. Did you like this, like, kind of like reverse Cinderella moment? I kind of
Um,
liked it.
I kind of liked it. I mean, it was like it was cheesy. Like,
Yes,
they
yes.
dance in the middle of the ballroom, but it's like it's a good payoff. Like I care about both these characters and they're gonna find a way. I also love that like I think in this scene Alexis just turns to her parents and was like, because they've cut out Derek, her twin, and she's just like, I'll do you the favor and like cut myself out, basically. And I'm like, for me, that's like a huge, like, I love that for her, it's just kind of like, actually, I'm not even going to give you the chance to cut me out and tell me how disappointed you are in me. I'm just going to peace out and leave this family. I thought it was pretty awesome. Yeah, I
It
like Basilica.
was.
Yeah, it was a good ending.
It was.
Yeah.
And yeah, they dance, they apologize to each other.
Yeah.
And he says, like, I own the grand house now, so we can move in together, so we should get married.
Yeah.
And then we get the epilogue. 7 months later, they're married.
Yep.
Alexis is 12 weeks pregnant. They went on a huge honeymoon to Europe. The
That the
clinics
mom bought them that. The
that the
mom's gonna come
mom
around. Yeah.
yeah, that and the mom went to the wedding and bought them the
Yeah.
honeymoon. So the mom has come around. The dad is still kind of out of the picture, which
Yeah.
that's realistic.
Totally realistic. Yeah. But mom's kind of finding her voice, which is like kind of nice. It's a kind of a nice, a big theme in this is like recovering from abuse, essentially. And so the mom's taking the steps she can. And I think she's in contact with Derek too. I am so over the romance trope of like the character being pregnant at the end of every epilogue. Like,
That's what I was gonna
why?
say. That's
Why can't
exactly that's
Is that what
exactly
you're
what I
gonna
was.
say?
Yes.
I'm like, why can't she just be like killing it at work? Like, I don't know. It's like they always have to be pregnant.
They always had to be pregnant, and I'm
Yeah.
so sick of like, okay, so here's my suggestion. I love this if this is like a bonus chapter on
Yeah.
Abby's website, or like it's in a special edition or whatever.
Right.
Love that, because she talks about wanting to have kids and get married and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
I'm happy that she's getting what she wants.
Yes.
I'm not saying any of that part is bad, but
Right.
when you literally get to the solution and then you flip one fucking page
Yeah.
and it's immediately, I'm pregnant, I'm married, and like
Yeah.
everything is okay, I'm like, give
It-
me a
it's
break.
you're so right, Tori. And like also it would have worked more in the favor of the trilogy if like maybe we got that update in the next book. Right? Like why
Yes,
can't
yes, yes.
Bree should be going to her wedding baby shower or whatever, right? Like or her wedding.
100%. I
Yeah.
love that in series books where you just
Yeah.
get a small update on them, but it's someone else's POV, and
Yeah.
it's months or years later, cuz it's just so frustrating, the like 6 month jump and
Yeah.
all is fucking well, and like
Yeah.
it that is starting to go in like a Disney Disney movie route,
Yeah.
instead of like a really, like, this book was so realistic, and like I really could see this book happening in real life, and
Yeah.
then as soon as you put
Yeah.
that epilogue on, it makes it like a movie.
It makes it kind of cheaper. Yeah, it's quite a like it's actually kind of a progressive book. Like the way they
Yep.
talk about like wealth and everything, the things we've been talking about. It's quite progressive. And then yeah, this feels like something like an editor would want and not an actual author,
Right.
you know?
Yes. I could very much see her publishing house or whatever just like being like, you got to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap up with our roundtable discussion. Our internet investigation. This is our cursory peruse of the internet of things you need to know.
Hmm.
Hunter is based off Abby's dog, Tess.
Love that.
I thought that was cute. I like when authors do that little personal touch.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is really interesting. I actually don't know if you know this. All of her books are interconnected with Easter eggs.
All the books, like not just the trilogy?
Yeah.
Really?
The Part of Your World trilogy,
Okay.
her standalone novels, and the Friend Zone series.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Love that.
Yeah.
She has a huge following. Like I see her everywhere now. That's she's doing really well.
Yeah, I think that her book, Just for the Summer or whatever, was like that, and Funny Story were like the books of the summer.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, this was so fun. Abby is a baker. She owns multiple bakeries, and she
Mhm.
won Cupcake Wars in 2013.
Yeah, she's like a cupcake queen. I know. And so her bakery, Nadia Bakes, was
Yeah.
mentioned in the story like 3 times. Did you catch it?
No,
Yeah.
not once.
Yeah. She said it 3 times. It was like literally like the wedding scene in the epilogue was like, and the cake was from Nadia Cakes. And then also when like Daniel's rhyming off some fancy foods that Alexis brings from the big city, he's like, "Oh, she brought me cupcakes from Nadia Cakes." It's like she references herself
Oh
like three
my God,
times.
I hate
Yeah.
that. I hate that, but
I
like,
hate that. I
whatever.
know.
Like,
Honestly,
oh my
too,
God.
the cupcake connection here is also what made it kind of dated for me because I was just like, remember when cupcakes were so massive? Like,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was part of the dating it for me. I was like, okay, this girl's like a cupcake queen or whatever.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah,
speaking of dates, in my Wonder Whys, which are our unanswered questions for the
yeah,
listeners, my first one is, will the references age well? Because you're totally right. Cupcakes
yeah,
are were the dessert du jour of
yeah,
2013.
yeah,
And like,
exactly.
referencing the Longest Ride movie is
I
wild
actually,
to me.
I actually missed that one. So was she saying that he's hot like that guy or whatever? Okay, interesting. I missed that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. She mentions it at one point, and then I think one of her friends, maybe Gabby or Jessica, is like, "Wow, he really looks like Scott Eastwood from The Longest Ride," and I was like, "No, thank
Weird.
you."
Yeah. I think like any referencing of pop culture is dangerous territory. Like you just kind of should minimize it. Like there also like Airbnb too is like kind of, like on its way out or whatever. And also this is random that I remember this, but when this crappy friend was giving the 1-star review, she was actually doing it on TripAdvisor.
Oh yes,
And it
yeah.
took me out of the book because I was like, who's using TripAdvisor? Like
TripAdvisor, like
I
Google review,
yeah,
like.
exactly. Or like, I don't know, just like leave it as like a mystery 1-star. Like you don't even need to tell us where she's doing it. Just say I'm leaving a 1-star. Like the TripAdvisor really took me out of it because I was like, oh my God, no one goes there.
Yeah, it's just some of those specifics. I just think like clothing, technology,
Yeah.
really like those micro trend things just like don't do. So will they age well? Like obviously the answer would be I guess no, so maybe that's not really unanswered questions, but like
Yeah.
it didn't like super bug me. It was just
Yeah.
noticeable. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
like I'm going to rate this less on Goodreads because
Totally. And there certainly are way worse ones out there. Like there's some that are such bad pop culture references. I can't think of one right now, but like a lot of romance books will do that. Where they'll be like, we went to see this movie or whatever, and you're like, oh no, don't do that.
why did like Gilmore Girls, like why were they so successful with pop culture references?
I don't know. I don't know.
Those don't seem, they are dated, but they never felt that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. What was the one? Yeah, there's been a few. What was the one that kept referencing like The Walking Dead? There was one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Priest.
Priest. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
The
Priest
Walking
does it.
Dead.
Yes.
Yes. I know sometimes it
Yes.
works and sometimes it doesn't. It's so weird. It's like it's a risk that authors take, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, okay, but like, for example,
Mhm.
Sierra Simone could have said Star Wars, and then we
Yeah.
wouldn't have batted an eye.
True. True. Yeah, right. Because well, I guess there's certain franchises that are like kind of timeless or we have enough like nostalgia for them as a society that we like can forgive it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, if people have like examples of when this is done well, like I want to know.
Yeah, totally.
Another question I have, is the title a play off of Ariel, like The Little Mermaid? Because the book is called Part of Your World. She's a redhead and her name is Alexis.
Oh my God. I feel like such a dum dum for not realizing that. Yeah,
No,
totally. Could
is
be.
it though? Like,
I don't know. And unanswerable. I don't know. I could be. They do and it's totally like part of your world. Yeah, they have these like different worlds that seem like insurmountable differences. Oh my God. I don't know.
Well, like, but then I was thinking, because I was like, okay, yes, like, because Part of Your World, naming it that, I was like, that
Yes.
is so Little Mermaid.
Yes.
And then I realized the cover, she has red hair. And
Yeah.
then I realized her name is Alexis. But then I was like, what are the other, like, are there any other ties? Like, it's kind of like how,
Disapproving, disapproving jerk father.
oh, yeah, you're right. King
Hmm.
Titan is the
Hmm.
dad. Who's Ursula?
Yeah, there's not really like a I
Like,
mean,
oh, steal your voice. Maybe that's Neil.
oh my God,
Like,
totally.
didn't give her like a voice.
And she does say to her mom, I hope you're getting your voice back
Voice
at the end.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe Ursula is just like abuse.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it's just as a
as a
concept.
whole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cuz at first when I thought that I was like cuz remember with Akatar I didn't get that it was a Beauty and the Beast retelling.
I texted you immediately. I also didn't
Yeah,
get that. Like
yes, I remember that.
I sometimes miss this kind of thing.
Me
Like
too.
totally.
Like, you guys, I'm here for the smut and the vibes. I'm
Me
not like
too.
analyzing the literary like references, the
No.
symbols, like the motifs.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now I'm like spinning out on this. So I wonder too if when she looked at his ID, was his middle name Eric? Okay, this will be the clincher. Maybe it wasn't. I'm
Was
imagining.
it? No,
Well,
maybe. Yeah, that
it
okay.
doesn't that sound maybe like it could be. I have the book, but I've left it in another room.
I
But
also, to be honest, have never rewatched The Little Mermaid since I was a kid.
oh,
I actually now just got Disney Plus back.
oh wow,
So I'm gonna watch
the live action one.
the live action one that
It's
was
good.
released
It's really good.
and get the storylines back and
Yeah,
maybe I'll see more.
yeah. Eric, he's a prince. I mean,
Yeah.
they do call the Grant legacy like humble royalty or something a few times.
I know, because that you're right. Would it be like a gendered swap? No, because I like the
No,
King Titan thing.
yeah,
Or
the
Triton or
dad.
whatever. King
Yeah,
Triton.
God, it's totally possible. Hmm.
Okay, I'll post this on Instagram stories and people can weigh in.
Yes, I'd love to hear.
Oh, we talked about this, but like, yeah, why does she want the house? I guess out of principle, but like, she's rich and there's such bad memories there. Like, okay, you know this from my other podcasts and stuff like
Yeah,
I will hold a grudge, like, and like
same,
I
same.
will be petty
Oh yeah.
and try to spite people and stuff
Oh
like
yeah. Me
that.
too. Me
Like,
too.
I will do shit out of spite and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
me too.
But at some point when it's like affecting your mental health, like when Daniel goes into her room, she has like the Keurig and like she's basically living in her room
She's
instead
turned
of
it
the
into
whole
like a
house.
bachelor. Yeah, she's turned it into like a bachelor apartment, basically, her room. Yeah.
Yes. And at what point do you say this is actually affecting my like mental health and I
Yeah.
should just leave?
I wonder too, this is my only theory, is that like she is a working like ER doctor. Like I think there are times where she's like I think she's just trying to like keep her head above water. Like she's just trying to work. And also like she has such like learned helplessness from her dynamic with Neil that I wonder if she like couldn't operationalize like finding an apartment. Like she just was like too overwhelmed by it and she was just kind of like I don't know where to look or start or like I think she was kind of just I don't know if overwhelmed is the word, but I think she was just kind of frozen or something like in her self-doubt and stuff.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I was like, she has the resources, but you have to initiate the like
You got to do it.
the
Oh yeah.
step. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Although maybe she's so she's so rich, she could probably just have someone find an apartment for her. Like I'm thinking
No,
about
I
how much work
know.
it is for me to find an apartment, but if maybe she's like, yeah, I don't know why she's holding on to that house.
Do you have any wonder whys?
The biggest wonder why is kind of like, why is Daniel single if he's so hot?
No, literally, literally.
Literally.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Yeah.
Good fucking cue. I know, I know, I know. Okay, our gripes and grumbles, these are nitpicky problems we have with the book. This is so nitpicky, but when she has that one conversation with Derek after her one night stand, he asks her if she used protection.
Like what? I know. I caught it too. I clocked it too. I why? I mean, why do we need to even talk about condoms in these books? I don't get it. It's so yucky.
Unless you're just like putting it on, I don't really want to hear about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. If it's
Yeah,
as long as it's like, yeah, exactly. Just in the moment, fine. We don't need to like discuss it later.
totally.
Um, it also like was her brother like kind of teasing her, maybe? Was it kind of like, oh, you had a one night stand? Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. It was just weird because I'm like, she's 37. She's a
Yeah.
doctor, so she knows about health, and she's your twin. So
Yeah.
stop talking about that.
Yeah, don't talk about that. Yeah, exactly. That's a little
Yeah.
weird.
Oh, this was funny when she can't get a hold of him because she doesn't know, like, he doesn't have social media or whatever.
Yeah.
but he's the mayor.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, there had to be some type of contact information.
Yeah, I'm sure the like village has a website that's like call the mayor here.
Or
Totally.
like, or yeah, because she's like, she's shocked that he's every, like, or she's shocked about his family. I'm like, you looked at his license,
Yeah.
you know his full name.
Yeah.
If you Googled him, you would have at least saw the history of
Yeah.
the place. So that was a
Yeah.
little sketchy to me. Okay, this is a big, this is just being a person that had a long distance relationship for a lot of years.
Hmm.
Okay, like if you are long distance with someone and you're driving to see them and then leaving,
Yeah.
you are basically not in a relationship. You're just basically on vacation with somebody.
You are so right. Yeah, it's like no wonder. Yeah, exactly. Not to like disparage their love connection, but like no wonder she
Yes.
felt relaxed around him. She got to actually leave and go to like a tourist destination.
No, literally. Just because it's
Yeah.
like you go to see the person, you're
Yeah.
probably not rehashing like actual relationship stuff or day to day stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's not seeing her when she just worked a 12-hour shift
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
she's cranky or whatever. It's like, no, she's showing up
Yeah.
and can be the best version of herself. And because also it's like you are the best version of yourself when you have a 48-hour, when you're like, I
Get
have
out
a
of here.
48-hour
Yeah.
limit.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, yeah. I mean, some of their relationship is kind of just like it's like they talk about it, but they don't actually live it. Like in that scene where like she does have a rough day at the emergency room and she loses a patient, she comes to him and is like, I'm sad and overwhelmed and work was hard today. And he says basically like, I'll take care of you. Like I'll always like, I will care for you and I'll make sure you eat. I'll make sure you like take a bath. Like, and it's like he never got to actually do
Do
that. But
that.
he just got to talk
Yeah.
about doing that, which is like, yeah, not a real
Yeah.
relationship. You're so right.
That's a really, really good point. Because it's like,
Hmm.
it's one thing to say that, but then the reality of actually doing it is another
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I just felt like you like trick yourself into thinking you're in a relationship, but like, and like obviously you are, but you're not. It's way different than living in the same city or living together.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Okay. Finally, our sequel scoop. This is the tea on any upcoming sequels, seasons, and the general reception. The
Okay.
book did really, really well.
It did.
It won Goodreads Choice Award nominee for
Mm.
Best Romance in
Hmm.
2022.
Nice.
There's a bonus chapter that I haven't read yet because I
I
didn't want to be
haven't either.
spoiled, but
I didn't either.
allegedly there's a bonus chapter on Abby's website.
Okay.
And as we've mentioned, it's a trilogy. The next book in the series is Yours Truly, and it covers Bree's love story.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then Just for the Summer is the last one, and it covers Emma's story. And I was like, who's Emma?
Maybe we meet her in Bree's story. Like maybe it's Bree's
Yes.
sister or something. Yeah. I'm gonna
Yes,
read
good
those
call.
for sure. I'm gonna read
Me
those.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. I don't know if that came through, but I really, really, really liked this book. I rated
I'm
it five
so glad.
stars on
I'm so
Goodreads.
glad. That's awesome. I did too, and I never rate anything because I'm like too. I only rate things when they're 5 stars or no stars. Like I'm this. I don't want to ever be part of like someone not getting a second book deal, so I can't like give
Oh
someone a
my
one or
god.
two. I know. I'm just
I'm
like
like one by one by.
I just yeah. Goodreads weirds me out. I think it's like the worst website ever. But
Yes, yes.
yeah, I loved it too. It was good.
It was really good.
I really want to hear, this is kind of out of nowhere, but like, who did you picture for these characters? Can we have a second of that kind of chat?
Not Scott Eastwood.
No, I, I actually like, you know this about me, but I like love trying to like pretend to cast things in in my mind. And like, I really struggled with him. Like, I couldn't picture him like often. Like, I think it's partially because like all the hot young actors of today can't really pull off like lumberjacky beard and stuff. Like, I couldn't picture him. But you know who I pictured for her was and this is ridiculous because she's not even an actress, but Bryn Whitfield from Real Housewives of New York. just because
Oh.
just because she's like red hair and she seems so like She has expensive taste. I could see her at galas. Like she's kind of like a fancy girl, but then also could be at a farm. Like I really, and also you could picture her dating someone 10 years older or 10 years younger. Like I could, and she's about 37. So I just couldn't let go of Bryn.
That's actually a really good call. I actually, it's so funny. Sometimes, you know, the like tweet that makes the rounds every couple months or years or whatever, where it's
Yep.
like, it shows how people visualize things in their memory or like in their mind. And it's like, one is nothing, two
Okay.
is like a stick figure,
Right.
three is like a 3D object, and four is like, I don't know, just something like really detailed or whatever.
Okay. Okay.
I'm definitely not a one or a
No.
two, but sometimes I literally don't even like picture them in my
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, yeah.
head.
It's
I
hard to do. Yeah,
guess.
totally. It's really hard to do. It's kind of, he's always like changing. Yeah, he was a hard one to kind of pin down. I don't know who he would be.
Yeah, I didn't really think of anyone for her, but know what? When they first described what he looked like, and this is sad because I don't even think he's hot and I think he's a bad person, but know what I
Okay.
really think he is? I think it's Justin Hartley.
Stop. No. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yuck.
I'm sorry, but that's
Uh,
literally what
oh,
I was like, I don't even think this guy is hot.
no, I know.
And
Sometimes
I
though,
haven't thought about him in years.
years, I know. It's hard sometimes. I'm about to say something that you're like not gonna like, but I actually
Yeah.
kind of pictured Blake Moynes at times. All
I hate that, but I get it. I
I know.
hate that. I
It's like
hate
all I
that.
could put together with like plaid beard. Like there was just not a whole lot going on. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
so
that's
funny. I could picture that. Like, did you know Blake Moynes went to TRU and was on the hockey team in Kamloops?
oh, in Kamloops. Yes, you did tell
Yeah.
me that. Yeah.
So he
That's
does
funny.
kind of give, like, I could see like the rancher vibes.
Oh, and all the animals and stuff. Yeah, like he's like earthy or whatever. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Okay, people will have to tell
Okay.
us who they thought.
I would love to hear that.
Okay, and then the last thing, this is really vague, and I looked it up to see if there was any further details on this. But each of these books have been picked up by a production company. I'm guessing the three from this trilogy. They've been picked up by Throughline Entertainment. I think they're starting on the book The Happy Ever After playlist of
Yeah.
hers. And so there's no information. That's from the Friend Zone series. So I guess they
Okay.
picked up this whole world building.
Her whole universe, her universe of
Yeah,
yeah.
the
Okay,
Jimenez
cool.
universe. Yeah.
It does read like very cinematic. Like you can totally picture it as a movie.
Yeah, I can totally see it as a movie, and I'm stoked. I'm gonna
Me too.
read more of her books. It was
Me too.
you're totally right. It was kind of Emily Henry levels of spice,
Yes.
because I usually lean on the like more
Allie Hazelwood.
erotica,
Yeah.
smut,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
vibe. But I really enjoyed myself. It was a good read.
Yeah, totally. And I think it was, oh my God, this is so cheesy, but like, I think it was an accurate depiction of what it's like to fall in love. Like, I think it's like, that's kind of what it feels like. And that's like the excitement and the like, yeah, I think it just kind of was like real love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of want to add to this podcast just like a, we'll see what people say, but like just
Okay.
like a, will this couple
Make it.
last, or
Oh,
like is this real, like
yeah,
kind of thing. And like I would say yes for them.
I would. Yeah, for sure. For sure. They
Yeah.
got it.
Any final thoughts on Part of Your World?
I don't think so. I'm really glad you liked it. I was like, because I think I had recommended it to you like way back when I first read it. And I was, for me, I hate talking about love languages, but my love language is like recommendations to people. Like I love
Mm.
telling people shows, movies, books. And so when someone likes it, I'm like, yes, it's exciting for me. So I'm glad you liked it.
Me too. And someone did suggest just for the summer, and I was like,
Yeah,
might as well start at the
totally.
beginning of the trilogy. And then,
Yep.
and you had recommended this. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is perfect. And someone DM'd me and they're like, I'm so excited that you're covering this book. So
Awesome.
it's a goodie.
It's a goodie. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I may plug is like I am part of the Gloss Book Club, which is like all around the world in like different cities. And, you always hear like people have a hard time like making friends in adulthood and stuff. And I've been a part of the Gloss Book Club in like Toronto, Montreal, now here in Victoria. And this was our pick for February. So that's how I read this was through the Gloss. So I mean,
Interesting.
the Gloss probably doesn't need my endorsement, but if people are like wanting to meet people in real life and like it probably exists in your city. I mean, it exists in most cities. And we do read books like this. It's not strictly romance, but like, this book came up in February and we probably do like two or three romances a year. And then the other ones are like also still fun, like kind of modern fiction or whatever. So that would be kind of not that I'm associated with it, but I do think it's a really good way to like literally make friends in real life.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
know it's been really nice to see also, you're right, the book talk of it all. It
Hmm.
it does it sometimes it leans into the commercialization
Hmm.
or like, but I guess it's like that's always books. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah,
But the nice part of reading being back in is I really think it's like bringing people together to
absolutely.
to
Oh
talk about
yeah,
something new.
totally. Yeah, it's like the chosen media, like for a lot of communities. Like it's fun to talk about books. I'm in like three book clubs, which is wild. But
That's nuts.
it is nuts.
No, I love it. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, Kat, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And that's the story of Part of Your World. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you to Kat for joining me on today's show. I am excited to tell you that the fall schedule is out now. I had to reschedule Akasuf, A Court of Silver Flames, with Megan, but we have now recorded it. So that will be out September 4th. And then September 11th will be Tell Me Lies with Christy from X Knows All. My Lady Jane with Mariah on September 25th. We covered things we won't forget back in the spring. And then Done and Dusted with a new very special guest. If you are enjoying the podcast, you can subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a rating and review. It really, really helps the show find new listeners and have them click play for the first time and join the Ready to Be Romance community. And if you'd like to suggest a book or leave a voicemail with a question or comment, you can do so via the links in the episode show notes. Our next episode truly is A Court of Silver Flames, chapters 37 to 80. Until then, happy reading. For Ready to Be Romance, I'm Tori. Goodbye.